Steph, welcome back to the cantina. Please feel free to pull up a chair at a table, bar stool, order a drink. You know what we got. Take a look at the cocktail specials, la la la. It's all out there in my very bad handwriting. All right. This is going to be a quick review of the Motley Crue biopic on Netflix called The Dirt. Now, I read the book a long time ago. And Nikki Sixx, the bassist of Motley Crue, have been pushing to make a movie for a long time. And the entire band is actually involved in producing this movie, which is really great. They were very, very much part of it. And that kind of gives some genuineness to the movie. Now, it doesn't follow the book exactly, but there are highlights. No guys, no Tommy Lee, Pam Anderson. Sorry. But Tommy Lee, Heather Locklear, we get to watch, they talk a little bit about how Vince Neil was in that car accident with the one of the members of Hanoi Rocks, Razzle, and Razzle was killed in the car accident, which really messed up the band a lot. A lot about Nicky's heroin addiction and his overdosing, dying, and then being brought back. Mick's issues with that bone disease he's got. And Tommy Lee just being the kid drummer. The thing I like about it is that it really brings the 80s of the early 80s when glam rock was really starting to get into its own. I mean, the Sunset Strip was full of these outlandish costumes, these guys with this big hair, the makeup and everything. And Motley Crue did it right. There's something about the band. When they all got together, it was in your face, hardcore rock and roll. Not tree, it was like, and we loved it. There aren't any apologies in this movie. Their behavior is appalling. But it's cool to see the rock scene from back then, 35, 40 years later on. To get sort of an assessment of what was right, the creativity, what was wrong, the behavior, the addiction, the fact that they were living the whole mythology of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And here's the thing. Motley Crue didn't do it because that's what they were supposed to do. They did it because they were Motley Crue. Okay. And it's sad. Vince Neil loses his daughter, Skylar, and it's heartbreaking. I am an advocate of father's rights. So seeing a father go through that, this little girl, my dad almost went through that with me. I did cry. It was very hard. Vince Neil is a very interesting guy. He's also kind of a good guy. Nicky learned how to be a good guy. Tommy Lee is just, I still think he's cuckoo. Mick Mars, for me personally, is, I think the greatest glam rock, heavy metal guitarist of all time. Sorry, Slash. It's Mick. Reason why is because he brought a real bluesy, organic sort of feel to that, to every riff. And it kind of is there. I mean, it's really, it comes from the gut, and and he was, because he was going through what he was going through, he was probably the most sober of all of them. All right, through the whole, how many years of touring and sitting in the studio and partying, he was probably the most sober of all of them. But, let's talk a little bit about the scene. The scene was, Sunset Strip, the Whiskey A Go-Go, the Rainbow Room, La-Di-Da, lots of, big metal bands got their starts there. Dawkins, Motley Crue, all of them. And it's very interesting how that time, those bands sort of were all there at the same time. And they all grew up into their own sort of powerhouse, the CRÜE being the biggest one. And what they created was something that will never be forgotten, because it is so alive. I mean, even the raunchiest lyrics. And I gotta tell you, for you kids, let me tell you something. My generation, for raunch, dirt, and disgusting, we win hands down. Our music rules, your music drools. Vince Neil actually could sing like that. And one of my favorite parts is David Lee Roth. That part was so funny. I literally started laughing my ass off. Just the way the disgusting behavior. But that part that he is like there is so goddamn funny. I was David fucking Lee Roth, and there he is, like, somebody say something. It's just like, that part's great. The guy they picked to play Ozzy Osbourne is pitch perfect. That guy, when he walked out, I thought it was Ozzy. Okay, I thought it was Ozzy. And for the CRÜE itself, the guy that played Nicky is fantastic. The guy that played Vince looks just like him. You put the blonde hair on and it's like, looks just like him. The guy that played Mick is slightly off, but he's so good, you kind of get past it. Machine Gun Kelly, who plays Tommy Lee, is fantastic. Goofy, like a big puppy. And that's, I think, every time I think about Tommy Lee, I think of that. But their behavior, the whole thing was this massive slide into a place that the music wouldn't come back again. And what's funny, and I'll leave you guys with this, the best album they ever made, Dr. Feelgood, was made when they were all fairly sober. It literally, I think, is one of the greatest albums ever written. And it is a shame that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has not inducted these guys in yet, because to me, after you're done watching this movie, you will see that they belong there. They defined what it is. It is really something to watch this movie. It's heartbreaking. It's sad. It's appalling. It's Motley Crue. And it's unapologetically their story, mashed up into about 2 hours. So you don't want to miss it if you have Netflix and you are a heavy metal, glam rock, punk rock, because they did get a lot of influence from the punkers. The Sweet was a big influence on Nicky. You're gonna want to see this movie. You're gonna want to read the book. It's called The Dirt, and it's fantastic. I think it should win Emmys. I mean, I honestly think it should be an Emmy award-winning movie. And the funny thing about it is they really wanted to show the truth about, excuse me, about what they did, who they were, and they did. They really, really, really did. And the reason why it didn't go into the theaters is because there's stuff that goes on that's like, so, watch it, have fun with it, and kind of get an idea of the culture that I grew up in, that several of us grew up in, that made us who we are. I think one of the reasons why the CRÜE is not yet in the Hall of Fame is because The one thing about Nikki Sixx and the rest of the band is they're very, very independent. They didn't kiss the man's ass. They demanded to own their own music, and they do. Unlike, the Beatles never owned their own music. Think of the money that could have been, for their families, and the legacy that they could have left their families with that. They don't own their own catalog, but Motley Crue does. And that was Nikki Sixx's doing. He would not take no for an answer. And it kind of drifted on into the rest of the band. It's really funny, but when you watch it, Nikki mentions that they're at war, and really you're watching a band of crazy nut brothers kind of going along and creating this insanely powerful music. How do I feel about them versus Guns N' Roses? I like Guns N' Roses. I like Slash. I'm not a fan of Axl. I think Axl's a dickhead. Guns N' Roses is kind of a different thing. Motley Crue is different. And you really can't compare, but for my money, I like the Crue better because they're not pretentious about it. Okay? And that is the greatest thing you can say about Nikki, Mick, Vince, and Tommy. There's no pretension. That makes great showmanship and great art and great music. So this is Steph. Remember, remember to tip your Wookiee bartenders 20%. Don't start a fight in the bar because the Wookiee bouncers won't stop. And as you know, it's expensive to replace tables and stuff. So see you around the galaxy. I'll see you around the cantina. Behave yourselves and